Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Grandmaster Zukertort in the 5-minute pool on ICC. Zukertort from Israel. Don't know who this player is. Let's just play knight f3 against e6 on move 2. It's kind of a crafty move order sometimes. The Ginger GM move order. I'm just going to fianchetto my light square bishop. And he is playing the classical variation, so put the bishop on e7. I like playing b3 and bishop b2, going for the double fianchetto against a lot of these Dutch systems, because I like the enhanced control over e5 that you often obtain. He's playing a5. I could play a4 in reaction to that. I can also just play c4 if I like. I think I'm just going to play c4 and look to play knight bd2. We're going to let him trade on b3 if he likes. He may also push the pawn all the way to a3, but that's double-edged. The pawn could become weak there later after bishop c3. So I'm just trying to get on with my development and encourage black to overextend. Let me check who Grandmaster Zukertort is here. Doesn't list a name for him. Okay, knight c6. Yeah, that makes sense. Queen c2 would be the normal reaction. Just guarding e4. I'm just checking to make sure that this move doesn't give me too many problems. I don't think it will. If he jumps in with the knight, I think I can just play queen c3. So I'd like to angle for e4. I want to prepare this pawn break. One thing that was drilled into my head with the match with Grandmaster Simon Williams, the Ginger GM, is that often in response to e4, black is looking to play f4 in the Dutch, even at the cost of a pawn. So I do have to bear that in mind. Like here, I could play e4 already, but I want to have something in mind in case my opponent goes f4 in reply. I think rook a e1 is probably just a more coherent move first, though. Even bishop c3 is a move I'm looking at just to discourage knight b4, because if e4, knight b4, yeah, that's a little messy and probably not in my favor. Bishop c3, on the other hand, looks pretty normal. Yeah, let's do that. So cover b4. I'm not abandoning the a-file yet, just in the case that he trades on b3 and I want to contest the a-file. Let's pre-move this move. I'm not sure about bishop d7. I know it's a developing move, but the bishop is often not well placed here. He might be trying to reroute it, e8 to g6 or h5. That is time-consuming, though. The other thing bishop c3 does for me is it allows me to play b4, b5 at a later date if I so choose. Okay, so my opponent is taking a little bit of time here. And he does play bishop e8, all right. So if e4, he's liable to take and maybe put the bishop on g6. This leaves e6 weak. I wonder if knight g5 is an option here, but he can probably just defend that easily, right? Queen d7, something along those lines. b4, again, comes to mind right here. Don't know if I want to play that move quite yet, though. So if knight g5, queen d7, what about playing d5, or maybe even knight takes e6 first? Yeah, let's go for this. This looks interesting. Trying to pinpoint the drawback of this last move. This also might help if I want to play e4 in the future as well. It uncovers my bishop. I've got the knight pointed at e4 too. So queen d7 is played. All right, so d5 is what I was considering here. d5, pawn takes, pawn takes. Where's his knight going? Probably e5. But then I jump into e6. That also cuts his queen off from defending f5. Starts to look good. Yeah, let's do that. So trade. If knight takes d5, by the way, trying to uncover the attack on my knight, I have bishop takes d5 with check. Important. Okay, so he just brings us back to cover. Makes sense. Maybe now b4, huh? Knight e6 again could be played, but somehow doesn't feel quite right. But if b4, h6, I'd have to bring my knight back to h3, which maybe I don't want. Maybe I need the protection of d5. E4 is a pretty forceful move as well. If I want to try to blitz him in the center. Or, E4, H6, knight E6, take. Queen takes, take F5. Well, that leads to a nice opening of the position. Maybe in my favor. Yeah, let's try it. Maybe he could play knight takes d5 now, though. Because I don't have bishop takes d5 check anymore. Knight takes d5, I take h7 perhaps. He takes c3, though. It's getting messy. I take f8, he goes check, king h1. I guess I do have queen c4 ideas. All right, well, we'll find out what happens. I'm not sure what's going on here at all. It just felt that I should do something forceful with his pieces mostly confined to the 7th and 8th ranks. Knight g4, not a move I anticipated. I sort of just want to support this knight with h4. Yeah, let's prop it up this way. And if h6, then I can decide if I want to play knight e6 or maybe even move it back to h3. He could play bishop g6 to lend more support to f5. He does play that, okay. Rook ae1, perhaps? I could take and then bishop e4, too. Maybe that's a little more promising. Yeah, let's try that. I'm down to 55 seconds. Gotta hurry. Let's pre-move this capture. Could always insert the trade on b3. Take, rook takes a1. I probably want to take with my bishop in that case, just to keep my rook on f1, guarding f2. Seems to make the most sense. Complex, and it's going to be a bullet game. I'm not sure he wants to take on g5 because I feel like his knight is more sealed off if he does that. Then again, maybe he can play for pressure against f2. Plays h6. Okay, so I was thinking knight e6 against this idea. Yeah, let's go for it. Attacking g7, by the way. Really, that way. Check. Does that amount to anything? Take. It's interesting. Oh, that nearly works. I don't have time to calculate it, though. I just got to play a move. All right, let's check. I could take on b7, but I don't want to lose the initiative. I guess he has knight d4 here, huh? Oh, no. Then I take and then take on g4. Bullet game, like I said, guys. Buckle up. There's going to be some fast moves played here. So I'm trying to get at this knight on e6. Is what I'm doing right now. So if the knight moves, I want to go rook e1. I think I can do that too. I think he loses the bishop on e7 at the end. Now here. He has d5. Maybe not. Clever. Okay. Let's bring this up. Knight d4 I'm looking for. We'll go here. Oh, he can just take. Maybe not. He can't take because he gets mated. All right. Well, that was a complete time scramble at the very end. The tactics kind of got the better of him there. Only 33 move game. Got to improve that speed. So this thing heated up, I think, when I launched the knight to g5. When I played the knight up, and especially followed with d5. So creating some chaos in the center. I'm curious what the best move is right here. e4 is forceful. As I was explaining, I really felt with his pieces bottled up on the 7th and 8th ranks that now was the time to strike, but there were some things I missed. Like when I played e4, I didn't realize that knight takes d5 is a candidate move, attacking the knight on g5. He surprised me with knight g4, which has some value as well, I think, but things also got a little weird right here after h6. I made the decision to play knight e6, so trying to cut off the coordination between his queen and his bishop on f5. And I could have just played bishop takes b7, but I was really intent on trying to prove that his pieces on the light squares, queen on d7, knight on e6, knight on g4 were a liability. I'm not actually sure I should insert this check and then play bishop f5. This is something you'll sometimes do to just push your opponent's king to the corner, which might help in an endgame. But actually playing bishop f5 right away is perhaps more logical with the knight on e6 being pinned and then trying to pile up on it like I did. Let's go back through and take a look at this. I think the opening was pretty standard, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. So I played this double fianchetto, just trying to discourage black from playing e5, and then let him play a5, a4. The knee-jerk move here would be to play a4 myself, but if I play a4 here, I don't like the idea of falling with c4 as much because he might play knight a6 to b4, and I don't have a pawn that would be able to kick that knight away if it lands on b4. Also, it's time-consuming for him to throw the a-pawn down the board, so I'm just trying to say that I'm going to complete my development and get on with life. So queen c2, he goes bishop d7, and I played bishop c3. So I was thinking about e4 directly, but I kind of wonder about knight b4, trying to kick my queen off this diagonal where it's helping to defend the pawn. And then if, say, queen c3, I think he can take here, and he's got the counterattack on this guy. I'm not sure how this is turning out. I mean, maybe... Well, knight g5 probably isn't so good because of d5, and this bishop defends the knight. So let me just put the engine on right here. Computer says grab the a4 pawn. I never gave that too much thought. I mean, it crossed my mind that maybe I can take at some point, but okay, I'm up a pawn temporarily, but it's such a difficult pawn to hold, and with knight b4, with the rook and the bishop both pointed at it, I don't know if I would seriously consider this. If e4, knight b4, yep, will be the reply. Okay, what about the move I played, bishop c3? Decent move. Black can try to play d5, change the pawn structure, but he goes bishop e8. And you always want to be looking at undefended things, right? Like even in 2017, I'm going to remind y'all about the undefended stuff. Undefended pawns, undefended pieces. So he just removed the bishop from the e6 pawn. That's sticking out like a sore thumb in black's position. So I try to jump on that with knight g5. And he does play queen d7. And here I felt like I was gaining some initiative. d5, take, take. So crucial, I also have an undefended piece, which he might try to exploit with this move, right? Getting the bishop working against the knight. But it's crucial that I can take with check. And that's one thing that when I pushed e4, I did not have, so coming up. So I think he correctly played knight d8, covering e6. And I went ahead and played e4, but that's perhaps not best, yeah, because a knight takes d5. I thought about queen d3 for a second. Point of queen d3, I think, would be to renew the e4 threat when knight takes d5 could, at this point, be met by queen takes d5 check. It just looked a little slow. This is another moment in the game where I spent a lot of time. I got to stop doing that, where in a 5-minute game I spend an inordinate amount of time on a single move. So an entire minute spent deciding whether to play e4 or not. I think it's really excessive. There are maybe some select occasions where it's correct to do that in a blitz game, but I think they're few and far between. So it does look like knight takes d5 is probably his best bet here. I mean, that's the critical test of my last move. And I was thinking about knight takes h7. I was wondering how this would turn out. So if he takes here, I can take here and claim that his king is exposed. But I guess he's going to take here. I take here. Then he gives a check. King h1. King takes f8. I saw this line, but I thought his knight would be trapped. Maybe it's not so easy to win, though. Queen d3, queen b5. Huh. Knight c4, let's say. Bishop f6. It's not a line a human would really strongly consider as black, though, in a blitz game. You would just be seeing that your knight is probably doomed, and you might not want to go for these complications. So if that's the line he calculated with regard to knight takes d5, I can see why he rejected that. So I was hoping that he would take here so I can take back and get my queen operating against the h7 pawn. I guess given that he can put a bishop on g6 at all times, this is maybe not as good as I initially thought. Although white is still better here according to the computer. Oh, maybe not after that move. Knight takes d5. Gotta watch that pawn. Queen d2 or rook a d1 best. Okay, so just defending here. Now, there is pressure against this knight, however. I gotta be careful. Yeah, if I could do it over again, I would not play e4. I don't think the time was quite right to play this move. I think I would have played something like queen d3 as we were analyzing. So instead he plays knight g4, and I was trying to maintain my knight on g5, so I played h4. And here he could have played f4. Interesting. There's that f4 move again, cropping up in the Dutch. Protected by the rook this time. And if I try to barrel through with e5, threatening this, that bishop always makes an appearance here. This is complex, though. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on in that line. But he played bishop g6. I took on f5. I could also play that to bring the rook over, but taking on f5 felt more consistent. And now bishop e4. He takes on b3. I also thought taking on b3 was good timing by him. So he's trying to drag this rook away from defending this rook. And he probably figures his rook on a8 is not going to be hugely valuable in the coming play. So if it can operate as distraction value, then it may be the best time for him to do this. And I don't want to take with this because I want it helping to defend the f2 pawn. So I take with the bishop. h6. Well, I think at times my instincts were pretty good. I played knight e6, like not being able to fully calculate the ramifications. He takes, I takes, I take here. Okay, so this was a key moment. I gave a check and then played bishop f5, but immediately after the game I mentioned that if I'm going to go for this pin idea, I should probably do it immediately. Yeah, with his king on g8. That's more awkward for him, the fact that I'm always threatening to take with check. I don't have to push his king away. And if knight e5, probably follow with f4, right? Or rook e1. Is there anything wrong with f4? The direct move? Might be similar to the game, huh? Yeah, whereas knight gets to come back and help defend here. Even here, I think white has great compensation. I've got the two bishops. He's all tied up, especially with his knights. But yeah, maybe the preparatory rook e1 is just stronger. Then f4 is an even more significant threat. So I gave a check and then did this. Okay, and let's see what the difference is. So here, white's advantage is not as great. So if I play rook e1 now, I played f4 in the game, but if I play rook e1 now, he can play this move. Okay. So why was that not an option? Probably because I had bishop h7 in the other line. Yeah, interesting. So knight d4, it looks complicated, but the idea is if I take his queen, he takes me, and he's got the fork here, and my bishop on d7 is under attack. And also if I play bishop takes d4, he can just take on f5 with the queen or the rook. Yeah, let's say rook takes. Whereas in that other line, because if you have two continuations that look equivalent, in analysis especially, you want to try to discern the difference between the two. So I think the difference is if I had played bishop f5 here, he goes knight e5, I go rook e1. Here knight d4 just fails because I can throw in bishop h7 check. The fact that I still have that check available forces king over and now just take. and he's straight down a piece. That's the difference between those two lines, or one of the differences, key difference. So I throw in the check, play bishop f5, f4, just proceeding forcefully. I mean, I've got 20 seconds left, and he's got roughly the same amount of time. And now I was just trying to pile up on the pin knight. It was just chaotic after this. I don't know that we can really seriously analyze this. Try to bring my knight up and around to put further pressure here. He correctly played d5. I'm sure there was something missed right around here. Knight c6 is apparently good. The tactical justification for that is probably bishop takes here, here, and take with the fork. Instead, he did this, whereupon taking is best for me. But I played this, which actually also is probably not a bad move. So I was trying to get at the e8 square, put pressure on the knight. He takes. Yeah, because if I take with the pawn, I think he can take here. And even though I win his rook, again, I fall victim to this knight f3 check idea. And note that I can't play pawn f7 at the end because he just takes it with his knight. So rook takes e5, and fortunately for me, with very little time left, he fell for the back rank rook e8 move. But even still, yeah, I guess he has problems because his knight is pinned. Has to move the knight. So, not happy with my speed in this one. Go figure. Nothing is new in 2017. The game itself was interesting. I like the fact that I played knight g5. That seemed to be good timing on that. I think e4 was mistimed on the other hand, specifically because he can play that knight takes d5 move. I need to prepare that with queen d3 helping to defend d5. Then the game got tactically interesting. I think that was instructive, the difference between playing in this position bishop f5 immediately or bishop h7 check. That's something that happens a lot in chess. And as you get better and better at analyzing your games, you'll come across many instances where you have two equivalent looking moves. And if you're analyzing with the engine will say one works out tactically and the other doesn't. And you have to work hard, try to figure it out on your own, as I did. Try to figure out what the difference is between the two, because then you might learn something for the future, as opposed to just having the computer tell you. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I'm going to play one more today. So I'll be back with one more game. All right, bye guys.